All right, what's up, guys? This is Fred Rojas from the B team, and I've decided that, in the interest of all this writing that people aren't really, reading, maybe I would try a vlog and see if you guys would appreciate this more. So today, for my first vlog, obviously, you probably figured I would talk about it. Let's talk about the issues that were going on with Square Enix and the Deus Ex controversy. So, for those that don't know, Deus Ex, obviously a cyberpunk game, kind of in a near future, was developed by Eidos Montreal, and Eidos is now under the veil of Square Enix. So it was published by Square Enix, and at GameStop, and a lot of people weren't sure if it was going to be a good game. Got very favorable reviews. One Up gave it an A, 90 on IGM, 85 on GameSpot. Giant Bomb gave it a 80 and things like that. Anyway, and they say that it's a very long experience. A lot of my friends and co-hosts are probably spending tens of hours playing it and enjoying it, from what I can understand. Anyway, so the PC version had this pack-in that no one was really aware of. There wasn't any advertising. There's not really a whole lot of labeling on the box, but it's that you get a free OnLive version, a code to play the OnLive version of Deus Ex, Human Revolution, on your OnLive as well. Now, I do get the point that this is kind of against the vein because you can't share the saves. OnLive is basically a service for people who don't have computers that can run these games, so by definition, you really don't necessitate the need for this. But it's a good start, and the OnLive people have said, this is going to be the start of something cool. Maybe they'll be able to share cloud saves and stuff in the future. Well, GameStop, if you guys don't know, have recently acquired Spawn Entertainment, I believe it was, or anyway. So GameStop was recently acquired, Spawn Labs, and they were going to use this to launch a version of OnLive, Gaikai, whatever, a streaming service. So since they've already started beta testing it, I believe they did that this month, they obviously don't want you playing OnLive stuff, So when they found out about the fact that there are OnLive codes in the box, despite the fact that there's no ads about it and I believe there's no labeling on the box that says this is the case, they kind of did something that GameStop has been guilty of for a long time. But this is kind of really bad on their behalf, despite their arguable reasons for this. They have opened and everybody was told at GameStops, at over 4,000 GameStops, to open the PC version and to remove the OnLive code and throw it out. So not only do you, on your pre-orders or your new copies of Deus Ex, not only are you getting it opened out of its sealant, but they have removed an item despite the fact that it wasn't advertised and you might not have known that it was supposed to be in there. They've removed an item because it could potentially compete with them in the future. There's a couple reasons for doing this, just so you guys know. First of all, they don't want to put a competitor, they don't want to be responsible for selling things with a competitor's product, on the shelf. And even though it's not a competitor now, it will be someday. And the second they allow this to get through, they set a precedence where people will be like, well, why did Square get to do it way back when? And so they just wanted to avoid that. A lot of people have heard Square has issued an apology, and people are like, well, it's not Square's fault. Well, actually, technically, Square should have let them know. Square could have prevented this whole problem by letting them know in advance. Then they could either have gotten their own packaged version, which, while everyone rolls their eyes at that, that's actually something that happens in this industry. Or, GameStop could have decided whether or not they wanted to carry it. So this happened, and people looked it up and this and that, and there were some lawyers and stuff and some analysts that were like, you know what GameStop is doing is technically legal. The biggest issue they could possibly run into is the concept that they did open a product and alter it, but they didn't do anything that the box advertised, so you're not losing out on any technical content. So the question becomes with gamers, well, what the hell? So first of all, people are like, well, you know what? Fuck GameStop, right? They want to do this. We're just going to attack them. We're going to hate on them for, removing this product and all that stuff, and we won't buy from them anymore. Well, that may work for some of you in large areas or with a lot of brick and mortars and stuff like that, but I can tell you right now that there are a lot of rural areas or other areas in town where GameStop's the only place where you can get Catherine, where you can trade in your used games, and most importantly, where you can get your PC games. You have to remember that this is all about the PC version, not the console versions, which is why you have to adjust when you're thinking of sales, first of all, in numbers, and second of all, in distribution. Nowadays, Best Buys, Walmarts, things like that, their PC section is a joke. You're lucky if you see the newest releases out there. So something like Deus Ex probably would see some showing, but think of something that you wouldn't normally think of as like a niche product such as Shadows of the Damned or Catherine. More bigger releases might still be difficult to find. So that's a big deal right there, because that is your form of distribution as a gamer. You may not like it, but GameStop's the only gig in town. Second of all, that may be the only place where you're going to trade in, and it is very probable that people are trading in used console games for PC games. So there's that. Finally, GameStop supports pre-orders. So if you want a game, if you absolutely want a game, and it's especially a PC game, you can walk into your GameStop, drop $5, and you know you're going to get it. Where with PC, if you're not into digital distribution, especially if you want a box copy, or more importantly, if your internet doesn't really support anything that's that fast to download, like a 14 gig file, this is kind of your choice. So the people who lose out here really are the gamers. You know, for those that are wondering, GameStop has since pulled the game off their shelves. My presumption, people are thinking they're just not going to carry it. My presumption is that Square Enix is producing sealed copies for them to sell at GameStop, because they are big enough to be a power player in this, that will allow, excuse me, that do not have the OnLive codes, so that people can get their hands on it. If you pre-ordered it, back shelf copy can be used. You better expect it's opened and the OnLive code has been pulled, though. And if you do want to return it, as long as you have a receipt, you can return it for a full refund. Either your open copy with the little sealed bullet, or your pre-order copy that you don't want to pick up anymore. But, you know, I guess my biggest issue here is, one, for GameStop, this is a PR nightmare. You would think. You would think a lot of people would talk shit and have a problem with this and all this stuff. But realistically, the PC market's probably a pretty small group, although an informed group. In addition, it may placate piracy or various things like that if people can't get it or can't get the version they want. You know, this is just the kind of stupid stuff that trolls and online flamers go for to justify why they would pirate. And it should be noted that while Square Enix may have made a mistake, the team at Eidos Montreal has no part in this, and they are the main people who are responsible for bringing you this game. And let's also not forget the other victims here are us, the gamers, and the customers, which are the main people who want to play the game. So technically, from the whole goal of this is Eidos wants to get games into our hands. We're the two power players. The middlemen are GameStop and Square Enix. Square Enix puts up the capital to actually be able to create the game in a marketable standpoint and put it on store shelves, and then GameStop being the shelves they're put on. So these middlemen are battling with each other, and guess who the victims are? Us, first and foremost, number one, and we're the customers, so we should be the number one victim. Or we shouldn't be the number one victim, and we should be the number one, stakeholder here. And then number two is Eidos Montreal and Deus Ex as a Human Revolution as an overall game, because its sales are dependent upon how well it will do and if it will get sequels, and if Eidos continues on and things like that, and if this team doesn't get downsized or shortened up or closed down or moved out. And so this is all really bad from those perspectives, from the stakeholding perspective. And so I guess my fear is, at Square, in the future, if you're going to do this, cool. Let them know. I think this is a lesson learned and a first time thing. But think about it, guys. GameStop or OnLive is a power player in terms of the streaming service, and I don't know that GameStop Digital's really going to be able to compete, and they're going to be a year and a half at least behind the curve when they do, because this service isn't set to come out until like a year from now. So the big fear is what happens when more games have the OnLive stuff. I mean, is GameStop going to force these people to make versions without the code? Is GameStop going to force these people to, or are they not going to carry the game? And so now you've got even less of an audience. GameStop is 4,000 gaming stores nationwide. That is a significant amount of stores. There is a lot to be lost by not having your game on those shelves. And furthermore, PC was hard enough to begin with. Why are you guys making it worse? And a lot, GameStop has a right to protect its investments, but sometimes I say, you know what though? When I go to Best Buy and buy a DVD player, and this is not an original argument, but when I go to Best Buy and buy a DVD player, and they have a Netflix coupon in there, but let's say Best Buy is connected to Blockbuster digital video distribution service. Blockbuster does not open those DVD players and remove that stuff, and neither does Best Buy or various other places. So the reality of these coupons being they're not on the, I think the very reason why GameStop is justifying why they can remove them is the very reason why it shouldn't be that big a deal. It's not like OnLive is featured in the stores or on the products. So come on, guys. And until you have Deus Ex running on a streaming service now, like, get over yourselves. But the bigger fear here is this is GameStop, who is a power player now and is a specialty shop. In fact, the only really existing specialty shop. And now they've decided they're going to fight back and go up against these people. And frankly, GameStop is bigger than a lot of these developers and publishers in terms of overall monetary sales strength. They can literally swerve parts of the industry into doing and not doing things they do and do not want to do. So what happens when GameStop suddenly decides it wants to make a console? What, are all these other game manufacturers fucked? So because you spent the last 5 years on the PS3, which was an established console, to make your exclusive PS3 game, and just today GameStop's beta testing a new console, now they're not going to carry PS3 games and your game won't get distribution? Like, what the hell is that? So I really hope that GameStop uses their legal power and abilities and strengths to remember that this is really all ideally about gamers getting games and them making money off of us doing so. And so I really hope that somewhere in between all this there can be a happy medium. So anyway, I am part of one of the co-hosts on the B Team. We are found at thebteampodcast.com. You can also find us live on allgames.com every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. So check us out. Be part of the live chat. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, give me your opinion as to what you think about this. This will be posted on thebteam.com, so throw it into the comments there, or just throw it into the comments here on YouTube. I'm very curious to hear what people think about this. I think this is a really bad thing, but I do feel that a lot of the facts kind of got convoluted. So I apologize if this is a little longer, but I want to get some of the facts straight while we're talking about this, because a lot of people think that, immediately hate on GameStop, but guess what? You know what? Even out here in Kansas City, they can be the only place to find certain games. So the reality is I can't not have them, While I don't really utilize their used games or trade-ins that much, they are still my one-stop shop when I definitely want a specific product in gaming, even more so than Amazon. So anyway, check it out. Leave your comments, and, this is the first vlog, so let me know what you think. Peace. You probably figured I would talk about it. Let's talk about the issues that were going on with Square Enix and the Deus Ex controversy. So for those that don't know, Deus Ex, obviously a cyberpunk game, kind of in a near future, was developed by Ubisoft. Giant Bomb gave it a 80 and things like that. Anyway, and they say that it's a very long experience. A lot of my friends and co-hosts are probably spending tens of hours playing it and enjoying it, from what I can understand. Anyway, so the PC version had this pack-in that no one was really aware of. There wasn't any advertising. Eidos Montreal, and Eidos is now under the veil of Square Enix, so it was published by Square Enix. And at GameStop, and a lot of people weren't sure if it was going to be a good game. Got very favorable reviews. 1UP gave it an A, 90 on IGM, 85 on GameSpot. All right, what's up, guys? This is Fred Rojas from the B Team, and I've decided that, in the interest of all this writing that people aren't really, reading, maybe I would try a vlog and see if you guys would appreciate this more. So today, for my first vlog, obviously, there's not really a whole lot of labeling on the box, but it's that you get a free OnLive version, a code to play the OnLive version of Deus Ex, Human Revolution, on your OnLive as well. Now, I do get the point that this is kind of against the vein because you can't share the saves.